What have you been up to since since spring break, since we've been home the whole time?
Yeah. Well, I just got through internship today with Capturely, so that's gonna be cool. Doing that through CIB BIP program, so that's gonna be cool.
Okay.
Sick.
Cool. Well, Jackson, I don't know if you had the chance to ever meet Jeremy. You probably see me retweet his stuff on Twitter or comment on his stuff on LinkedIn. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Jeremy and I met. I think I saw you on LinkedIn potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've just kind of stayed in touch over the course of a few years now.
Then we met at, what was it, Thirsty Scholar? Was that it? First time we met? That little coffee shop on Mass Ave?
Oh, we met at the co-working space downtown. You, Don, and Hunter were looking at new spots.
Oh, is that where we met for? Wait, which?
Because I was working with a client, and I saw you walk by, and I was
right.
like, I know that guy.
525. That's right. Yep, that's sick.
That's sick.
Yeah,
Cool,
this
cool.
is good. I'm excited for it.
Bringing people in slowly but surely.
The weather's been so nice lately. I've been trying to find like as many opportunities as I can to go outside. Yo, what's up, Brandon?
What's up, Brandon?
What's happening, guys? You guys doing all right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Oh, they're rolling in now. I had that email hasn't sent yet. So for those of you guys on here, there's an email going out in 2 minutes to everybody that basically gives them the link. So I'm excited. We got some people coming in here early to chat. And for those of you guys on here, can you see Jeremy and I okay, as well as the slides?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, dude.
David, I've got my notes ready. I'm excited to learn from your presentation, dude.
Dude,
I was looking through your thoughts and some of your slides. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be good.
I always write everything out, and then I think this is like the ex-college student in me. I'll design everything within like 48 hours of it, because like I'll think of everything, write it all down, but then like while I'm prepping or like thinking of new stuff, I'm like, how can I bring in context? And one of those was obviously like the Last Dance documentary. So that's why you guys will see here, there's a slide featuring Michael Jordan in here, it's pretty solid. I'm not going to lie. And then to keep the excitement up, there's a slide featuring Batman and his tool belt as well, which should be pretty good. So I'm excited. But yeah, I always like the college student me would always push stuff off, but now I like push it off until about like a day or two before. And then I'll just throw all of my thoughts at one slide deck and see what happens.
Love that. Yeah, I didn't start making mine literally like the entire flow to like Sunday or Saturday.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I work best. I mean, I've made keynotes, like just the day before. I sometimes just work best. Like, it's a little bit of like working under pressure, but a little bit of like that just excitement, like right before. Like I can sometimes just channel the best thoughts or energy right into it.
I was gonna say, I feel like right before you're in like a better state, because like a little bit of stress makes you think. At least for me, it makes me think a little bit more clearly to like, okay, like tomorrow I'm envisioning it like I'm going to be on stage. This is going to happen. Like, what exactly do I need to say, or like what's going to happen? What's going to go on? So 100%. I definitely agree with you. I'm better. Like I'll write stuff out and prep early on, but when it comes to like putting stuff down on paper, I definitely wait.
Yeah. I mean, that's even how I was like with papers in high school. Like I would wait to the last day, and then, I mean, writing was like the only thing I was good at in high school. So like I'd wait till the last day before. It'd be like a 8-page paper, but I'd get like an A on it. Like, and that was like the only thing that I was able to like do kind of well in high school. What's up, Shiva? What's up, brother?
Cool. Well, we are filtering in. We still got 4 minutes, so we'll give people some time. Cool. What's up, Noah?
What's going on, David? Long time no see.
Not much, I was going to say, super long time. Well, cool. All right. Cool. We got some more people coming. So as everybody filters in, we'll kind of run through, guess some quick notes. If you guys can see the screen, which I think you all can, it's the can you do us a favor? One, if you guys could just mute yourself until Q&A, that'd be awesome, just so we don't have any big interruptions. Jeremy and I are recording this. We'll probably put it, we'll definitely be putting it on the website so you guys can go back and visit this with some show notes. Jeremy and I are also going to put on our slide decks as well. So if you guys want to review the slide decks as well and kind of treat that as like an educational thing, you can do that as well. But you can mute yourself and then pin Jeremy and I to your screen. And then also, if you see the slides right here, you should be able to pin those to your screen as well. That way you don't lose it whenever I start presenting. And then whenever Jeremy throws his slides up there as well, you'll be able to present those and pin those to your screen also. Cool. We got some people coming in. I love it.
Heck yeah. What's up, Ashley? Congrats on St. Elmo's reopening. So exciting.
Hey, that's big.
The downtown Indy. What's up, Luke? What's up, brother?
What's up, Luke? We got some more. Awesome. And then also for you guys just hopping on, if you can mute yourself and pin Jeremy and I to your screen. And then also, if you guys want kind of throughout the presentation, feel free to drop some questions in the chat bot. If you guys have them basically going through, Jeremy and I won't stop and answer them in that moment. But what we will do is whenever the Q&A starts, we'll definitely go back, answer some of those questions and try and address a lot of those. So feel free to use that as kind of like an open source notepad. As you guys have questions, feel free to drop them in there, and Jeremy and I will definitely try and get back to them.
Open source notepad, that's dope.
It's on the spot. I couldn't think of a better way to phrase it. Awesome. Not a bad turnout. You never know how many people are actually going to turn out with signups versus turnouts, just because life gets crazy. We're seeing right now things happen, but kind of the whole premise of this, to give you guys some background, Jeremy and I were chatting, and we kind of thought it was weird that people would show up, put the webinars on their calendar, something would change, and they'd never get access to that content because they didn't show up. So part of this is going to be, the people who get to come, get to ask questions and different things like that. But if something else happens along the day and you can't make the webinar, everyone's still going to get the recording and some of the show notes as well. So hopefully, more or less people benefit from it rather than, forcing everyone to show up, changing their schedule around if they can't make it, things like that. Because I know we had an email, just 20 minutes ago from someone that was in another country, different time zone, that's like, hey, can I get the recording? Because it's like 2 a.m. here, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I had probably like at least 10 people were like, hey, I won't be able to make it, but I'm looking forward to the recording. I'm like, that's one of the reasons why we're recording it. So it's perfect.
I was going to say, it's perfect. But cool. I'm going to give everybody like 2 or 3 more minutes to hop on. From what I can see, feel free to drop in the chat if you can't see something. But right now you should be able to see everyone, including Jeremy and I, but then also the screen here, which is going to be my slide deck. And then as long as it's working, it should move over to that slide.
Cool. Dude, how do you pronounce your company? I've actually been wondering this the last few days. Is it?
It's Numa.
Numa. Okay, bet.
Yeah.
P is silent.
P is silent.
And what does that mean?
Which, I've been in the other side where I'm like, I'm not even going to act like I know how to pronounce your company's name, but out of all respect, please tell me so I don't mess it up again. But
I love that.
Awesome. Give it a few more minutes.
After also following this presentation, we're going to just be sharing a bunch of resources with you guys. So definitely be sure to look forward to the emails that we shoot after you.
Yeah, we will. I think Jeremy and I both got some stuff that we'll follow up with. But yeah, for those of you that are just hopping on right before we start, I guess I will click back the slide deck. You guys can first go ahead and pin Jeremy, myself in this slide deck right here to your screen. That way you can keep up with it. That'd be awesome. If you can mute yourself as well during the Q&A at the very end, that would be awesome as well, just so we can keep distractions down. But I think with that, we will go ahead and dive into things. So thank you first off for everybody coming. This is exciting. This was something that Jeremy and I kind of did out of nowhere. It wasn't something that we had planned for months on end. This was something that we were texting. We're like, you know what? We're going to throw together a webinar on personal branding. Let's make it happen. So this has really been 2 weeks in the running, 2 weeks in the preparation. So Jeremy and I are learning,
or less than. We only met, had one phone call to talk about it.
So yeah, Jeremy and I are definitely, we were trading emails. We're learning about this as much as you guys are. So feel free at the end of this as well, offer some feedback. But for now, I'll let one more person in. For now, go ahead and really kind of sit back and enjoy this. Both Jeremy and I will be dropping our slide decks over email to you guys after this, as well as putting them on my agency website so you guys can go and snag those whenever they come up. But also, it makes it a bit easier if you guys, know that it's there so you don't have to focus on anything. And then the only other thing that I'd say is that, if I'm going through my slide deck and I'm talking too quick or I go over something that was a bit confusing, feel free to drop it in the little message box that you guys see. We won't stop and answer those kind of in the moment, but what we will do is that once the Q&A comes up at the end, we'll address those and kind of go through all those. So feel free to drop your ideas in there and we will get to it. Sorry if I keep pausing. I have to manually let everyone in, which is a little different. I wasn't expecting that part, but we'll vibe with it. So cool. Let's go ahead and get going. Awesome. So if you guys can see the slide deck, let me know. Did it just change to slide 1 for you guys?
Yes.
Cool. All right. We'll dive into it. So personal branding is for everyone. This was a topic that Jeremy and I have talked about long before the actual webinar. Truly, this is something that him and I had on our minds. This is something that we had conversations about a lot. So we figured it'd be an awesome topic to actually address on a webinar to give you guys some more in-depth detail on what goes through our heads whenever we talk about that topic. So we'll go ahead and click to the first one. So my goals today, and if I look off, I'm looking at my screen here. I'm not tech savvy enough to put everything on one screen, but really my goal today is to give you the overarching view of what I think about whenever I say personal branding is for everyone. So, this is including the basics of like defining your audience, defining what a strategy is, what a content schedule is. And we can go into a lot of depth, which Jeremy's going to touch on more tactics, but I wanted to start and give you guys a strategy overview. So really one of the goals of that is to give you really no reason or no excuses that you can tell yourself. So mainly it's to help you get out of your own way. When Jeremy and I were starting personal brands, it's challenging to go put yourself out on social media and actually share your story, share educational content, entertaining content. That stuff's not easy. So part of this is we want to give you guys the tools to actually move forward and really just get out of your own way. And like I said, personal branding is hard enough. It only gets harder if you actually continually give yourself excuses. So we'll go ahead, slide 3. So here's what you can expect from me. 1, why is personal branding important? That's the main thing that I want to cover in the rest of this through the content that Jeremy and I are going to share. But we're going to go into things like your value proposition, your audience, your goals, your strength, your content schedule, and then why it's important to build a home, which we'll talk about. And then also a few final reminders as well, which are stuff that honestly I have on sticky notes around my computer right now that I remind myself of daily. Cool. So a quick reminder again, for those of you who just hopped on, this whole thing's being recorded. It's going to get posted on our agency website so you guys can go back and check it out. It's also going to be sent to you via email. We're going to make sure that you guys get this stuff. So don't feel stressed that, you have to take down every single note that I say. This isn't a normal classroom like some of you guys may be used to for college. We're going to make sure that you get all this information so you can really, achieve and actually learn a lot from this webinar. So if you guys want to sit back and really take it all in, feel free to. Don't hesitate to. But number 1, defining your audience. So I want you guys to visualize something. All these little dots right here are basically people that could be potential buyers from you, could be potential followers of yours, could really be in your audience. Whenever, people begin to build a personal brand, they make a lot of mistakes. And one of the biggest mistakes is assuming that their audience is much bigger than it actually is. This isn't super backed by data. This is more my feeling and my experience. A lot of people think all of these dots represent a person. In reality, these 2 red circles are probably your actual audience. It's going to be a lot smaller than you actually think. You see big people, let's say, you think your favorite influencer, probably hundreds of thousands or millions of followers. They didn't get there right off the bat. They started with a very small niche audience. A good friend of mine named Eric Hinman, he's out in Denver, Colorado, where I am right now. He is an influencer on Instagram. He's got like 50 or 60,000 followers. But when I asked him how he started growing that, he said the very first thing that he did was basically create content for Ironman athletes in Denver, Colorado, which is like a very small niche group. If you know anything about Ironman, not many people do it, especially, basically narrow it down to a city, you get even less people. And that's how he started. He basically did that, slowly added to his audience, asked them what they wanted to see, what they wanted to engage with, and kind of had this back and forth dialogue. So the first thing I want you to keep in mind, whenever we define our audience, it has to be small, it has to be targeted. And there's a list of things that we can cover. Some are more simple, some are more advanced. So the basic things, I call them basically name tag conversations, the things that you can find on someone's name tag. Their name, their age, their job title, their gender, if they're married or not, what city do they live in, what level of education do they have. Things vary like that. But whenever we dive into the advanced things to target, obviously you can get into what are their pain points, what are they afraid of, what solutions have they tried before, where do they hear about you, what are their life goals, different things like that. So you really want to encapsulate the person that you're targeting and really seek to understand not only the base layer things, but who they are on a characteristic and emotional level. Cool. Frozen. There we go. Second one, defining your value proposition. So if you ever heard of like Shark Tank and the elevator pitch, how to basically pitch a company, Nike does it, Adidas does it. Basically any real big company, especially at the Fortune 500 or higher level, is going to do this. So at the same thing, why don't we do the same thing as well? Why don't we pitch ourselves like Nike, like Adidas, like Adobe, like Apple? You could go on and on. So really, defining your value proposition comes down to what you want to be famous for. And there's a really unique reason that I used famous is because a lot of us want to be known for different things. Maybe I want to be known as a slightly above average college soccer player, or maybe known as a dude with a dog or a guy that likes running. There's a lot of things that I want to be known for, but there's very few things that I want to be famous for, that I want people to know me potentially worldwide for. And that's probably not being an above average soccer player. That's probably a more intricate statement, which we'll dive into in a second, which really gives you some frameworks about how to talk about yourself. So there's 3 frameworks that I normally recommend people use whenever they're building out their personal brand. If you follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter, you know that I change mine frequently because I like testing. But right at the start, I really recommend choosing one of these 3 and sticking with them because it'll help you understand a bit more about yourself, but also a bit more about your audience and what resonates with them. So instead of just reading them off, I'm going to give you some examples. And in light of the Last Dance documentary, we're going to dive into Michael Jordan and what his value proposition would be. This was a slide that I did not plan on having. This is a new one. I'm super excited about it. So I'm sure everyone's familiar with Michael Jordan. If not, go watch the Last Dance documentary after this. It was really good. But to give you a tangible example per se of what defining a value proposition would be like, we're going to use Michael Jordan. And the first statement that we have is, I help X do Y. This is a very simple statement for you to basically understand how you bring value to your target audience. So for MJ, it's, I help basketball teams win championships. Short, simple, to the point, and it gets his value across. It gives them something tangible to think about. They're winning championships with Michael Jordan's help. Like, who wouldn't want that, right? The second one is, I help X do Y without Z. This is a really good a really good framework to use if your audience has a big pain point. So let's say your audience is the Chicago Bulls, who hadn't really won many championships before, weren't all that successful, weren't really known like they are now with, 97, 98 Bulls. So the without Z statement really highlights your unique value. So again, using MJ, I help basketball teams win championships without waiting for decades. A lot of us are impatient. That probably would bode well to Jerry Krause or whoever the general manager was for the Bulls. They didn't have to wait. Like, MJ's bringing something special to the table that really changes the playing field. And then the last one, this is one that I'm currently using now that I really like. It's struggling to achieve X, can't seem to get Y right. I help with that. Basically, you're defining, you're asking the audience questions to really, make a light bulb go off in their head. Like, I wonder if I actually struggle with that. or like, I wonder if I'm not doing that to the best of my ability. So one for MJ would be, struggling to win games, can't get your momentum going on the court. I help with that. It's a simple reminder. It's like, these issues that we deal with day in and day out, winning games and getting momentum on the court. That's more of a basketball example, but maybe in real life, if you're creating content on LinkedIn or creating content on LinkedIn for brands, maybe it's struggling to get engagement on LinkedIn, can't seem to get the right strategy down to generate leads. I help with that. So there's a lot of ways to do this. Hopefully this gives you a more tactical understanding of what, these I help statements are going to look like for your own personal brand. We'll dive into it. So the next part I want to dive into, which is really important before we get into the more tactical side of my presentation, is defining your goals and systems. I'm a big believer that a lot of people fail at their goals because they only set goals and they don't define their systems. So a goal is something that you want to achieve, plain and simple. Let's say, for instance, you're getting on LinkedIn, you want to grow there. I want to gain 5,000 followers on LinkedIn by 2021. Writing that up and putting a sticky note on your computer is awesome. It may look good for like a Twitter picture, Instagram picture, but that doesn't get you any closer to your goal unless you set a system for it. And systems are basically the method, the routines, the steps, et cetera, that are going to help you actually achieve that goal. So if I want to gain followers, a system may be, I will comment on 20 posts every day, make one post a day until I actually reach that goal. An easy one that we've probably all done, I did this year for a New Year's resolution, is that, I wanted to lose 10 pounds. Saying that I wanted to lose 10 pounds doesn't do much until I actually put in the system that says, I'm going to go to the gym every day. I'm going to try and burn 3,000 calories a day, different examples like that. So when we go for it, especially in your own personal brand, it's awesome to set goals, but make sure you guys are really setting, those systems up and making sure that you can actually find success. So some goals and some systems to give you some tangible examples. I won't run through all of them. I'll just run through the first couple. That should say systems. My apologies. So goals. One of the ones, get featured on podcasts. Maybe the system is to engage with other users every day. Get featured in online publications. Maybe it's investing in some paid advertising. Maybe you just want to become a thought leader. So maybe your system is to write an article every day. So whatever your goals are for personal branding, it's really important for you to actually sit down and define, how can I actually reverse engineer and make sure I achieve that goal? So please keep this in mind. A few things that I want to touch on. One, define your goals based on what you actually want. There are a lot of people that create content only to grow their business and grow sales. That's awesome because that probably fits more or less what they want to do. And that's good for them. But, maybe you have a different motive and maybe you just want to create content and just build a new community. And maybe your personal brand is just honestly sharing your story to make new friends. And that's awesome. So the thing that I really want to remind here is that whenever you're setting your goals or systems, make sure to be true to what you actually want to do, not in really like an inspirational, motivational thing, but it's going to get old really quick if you're trying to play someone else's game. Like I said, a baseball player is never going to find success if he's on a swim team. They're not built for a swim team. In the same way that potentially if you're trying to play someone else's game or achieve someone else's goals, you're not going to find the same level of success that they do because, maybe they're just more articulated for that level of goal. Maybe you're someone else different that is geared for something else. So we're going to dive into Batman now, which is probably my favorite side. So whenever we define our strengths, what I mean by that is defining your strengths on social media. What are you good at that's actually going to help you grow your audience online? Batman has a tool belt. He has all the tools available to him, but notice there's a plethora of things that he can decide from. He's not always going to use the Batarang. He's not always going to use a number of those things on there. It's going to be based on what, the situation he's in, the environment he's in, but also, potentially just his strengths in general. In the same way, you have social media and you have a lot of social media platforms and a lot of options to choose for, which gives you the option to really hone in on what you're good at and use social media to really grow that strength. So I'm going to touch on 8 social media accounts or platforms, super quick. Don't feel like you have to take notes. And I probably potentially left off a few as well. But I really want to dive into what does this look like if you're brand new and you haven't posted on social media. This gives you an idea of maybe the community that you can find on each of those platforms. So for LinkedIn, LinkedIn's big on educating others and really writing and copywriting. So if you're a good writer, that would be a great place to start. Twitter is good for quantity. If you like to, stay in the loop, really hit the context of the world and, spark conversations and jump in other people's conversations, that's a really good platform for you to start. Instagram, if you're an aesthetic person, you like the visuals, are you really good at building a community, which is what Instagram's really good at? That would be a great place to start as well. And for YouTube, do you like going deep into content? Do you want, really a highly engaged audience, someone that's going to show up to every single video that you publish? That's going to be a good one as well. And that's also a long-term game. Some newer platforms as well, I guess, with the exception of Facebook. TikTok is a new one. Like, are you a creative person? Do you like creating content at scale? And are you really good at keeping up with the trends? That would be a good place to maybe try and grow your personal brand. Medium, if you're someone that's like, I can't stand normal social media because it's too short. I don't have time to express myself. Medium's a perfect place for you to dive into and start. Facebook, maybe you have an older target audience. Maybe you want to invest in some paid advertising because that's the platform to do it on. That would be a really good place to start as well. And then Snapchat, Snapchat's a new one. I haven't used it all that much, but it's really like creating content at scale and being more of the vlogger, showing off what you're doing day in and day out. If you want to invite your community and really see that side of your life, that would be a great place to start as well. The one rule that I am going to leave you with regarding that is the 80-20 rule. So for me, basically, the 80-20 rule stands for a few things, but the main thing is that it helps me focus my attention on really growing on the platforms that matter. So basically the 80-20 rule is that you spend 80% of your time on one platform and 20% of your time on 2 to 3 other platforms. What that's going to do is it's going to actually help you hone in on what you're good at, but it's also going to manage your attention. We like trying new things, or at least most of us do. Maybe we want to try out Instagram or try out Twitter or Snapchat, but it's a really good idea to focus a lot of your attention on, really forming those building blocks, making sure that everything's in place for you to try new things later. So for me, that one platform is LinkedIn, and my 2 or 3 platforms, which is only 2, is honestly just Twitter and Medium. Those are the 2 places that I'm starting to invest in as well. Lastly, defining your content schedule. This was a big question that we had, so I definitely wanted to address it towards the end of my own presentation. No one walks into a gym and gets into shape without a plan. It doesn't happen. You don't walk into a gym and magically lose 10 pounds. This is kind of like the goals and systems conversation we had earlier. No one logs on to social media and randomly builds a following. It's articulated. It's very meticulous. There's a daily, weekly, and monthly tasks that you want to get done, which is exactly what I want to challenge you guys to do. Is you're building out your strategy. Choose 2 or 3 things to do every day, every week, and every month. So I left some examples up here on the screen. I don't necessarily want to read through all of them because you guys are probably skimming them as I speak. But the idea is simple. To build out a really good strategy, you want to post and really do a lot of your interpersonal communications and interactions on the daily side of things. That's where you really want to go in and interact with people, make your posts, make your comments, find new people to follow, find new people to connect with. Every month, that's when you really want to take a step back and look at the 30,000-foot view. What's working? What's not working? What do I need to do next month to actually find success? And what are the data points that I'm really looking at? And from week to week, I normally use my weekly structure strategy to create content. So every Saturday, I'll wake up, write 2 articles, and create all my content on one day because it helps keep me in the zone, but it also, makes it a lot easier throughout the week. Things get busy, things can go up and down. This makes sure that I actually get content out on time. So that should give you a pretty good idea. That's something that I'm happy to address more kind of as we finish. And then one of the last things I want to say is build your home. So really, when we talk about your personal brand, you're building awareness on all these platforms, right? You've defined your value proposition. You've defined your audience. You know who you want to go after. You're starting to create content, whether it's educational or entertaining, about really, what your story is and what value you can bring to the table. I'm a little biased because I like building websites, but one of the things I challenge people to do is build their home as well. And you want to build a home for all of your content, a place where, if someone finds you on Instagram, they're interested in who you are, they can click your website and then learn a ton more about you. They can see your articles, they can see all your videos, they can see everything at once, really under one roof, which is why I call it a home. So a lot of people freak out when I say website because they think of, hardcore coding, sitting behind a computer for days trying to figure it out. And it's not necessarily like that. The barriers to entry have really dropped, especially in the last 5 years. So those are some platforms that, can use. I am really fond of Wix and Squarespace. I think they're awesome for, starters who are trying to learn a bit more. But I challenge you, maybe you're a little bit more advanced and you have been posting some content. You're really growing your brand. I challenge you to invest maybe in a website. Wix, you can do most things for free. Practice throwing up a portfolio and see what happens. And then very end, as I pass off to Jeremy, there are 3 things I want to remind you guys with. One is that consistency wins. If you can really, step back and see the bigger picture, if you can get 1% better every day on social media, if you can learn, maybe just improve your copywriting skills by 1%, improve your photography skills, improve who you connect with, or learn a bit more about your target audience. It may seem like it's not adding up like right at the beginning, but give it a month, give it 2 months, give it 3 months, and you're going to start to see some real results. The second one is that your environment matters. Like I said earlier, the analogy, a baseball player on a swim team will never find success. I am not an Instagrammer by nature. That is not how I work. It's not a great platform for me. If I were to invest all of my time onto Instagram, I probably wouldn't see the same results that I'm seeing now on LinkedIn, just because LinkedIn is a better fit for who I am and what I do. Lastly, take a deep breath. Not everyone has to be Gary Vaynerchuk to win on social media. You do not have to post 1 trillion times a day like I feel like he does to find that success. Find your pace, find your speed, find what helps you achieve your goals and what you're comfortable and happy with, and stick at that pace. You're not, like I said earlier, you're not going to find success following someone else's game plan or goals. You have to develop your own game plan and actually follow it. But with that is my entire presentation. So feel free to drop some questions in that chat so I can get back to them once we get to the Q&A. But with that, Jeremy, feel free to go ahead and throw your slide deck up.
Sweet. Do that third one, taking a deep breath and relaxing, like that is wisdom. And your 80-20 rule of platforms, like that's genius. That's honestly something that I need to do for my own personal brand. All right, can everybody see this? See my screen? Okay, so personal branding is for everyone, for real, as we've kind of talked about. That's like the main overarching kind of context what we're talking about. My goal for this presentation is to just give you the permission and the confidence to put yourself out there. So if you see this gentleman right here, that like when he steps outside, like he's walking with swagger, he's got confidence, he's about to close a business deal. He's gonna do an Instagram live, or he's gonna do a quick vlog. Like he's just walking with confidence just because he's sure of himself. And so that if there's one thing that you kind of collect from my presentation, it's just that you have a little more confidence. Speaking to that confidence, one thing that I really want everyone to understand is like, you have value to give to the world. And value comes in 3 different forms. Typically, it's your perspective, which is your unique, way of looking at something, how you were raised, or like those are the lens of how you view the world. And like your perspective, just kind of as a standalone, your piece of value can be really valuable for someone else. Second one, personal experiences in life, whether you go through hardship or something is tough or something is great for you, something goes great, you have a successful campaign or something goes well for you, that personal experience can be valuable for someone else. And then like the third one, which that's the first one that typically people think about, but that's the third one for, the context of what I'm talking about, is just straight up knowledge, right? Like that's when you're doubling down on a skill set. That's when you have mentors around a specific niche. That's when you're reading a lot of books on a certain topic, or maybe you're watching a webinar like right now. Like that's when you're like, you've collected information from other people or from, whatever. And like that's actually, or from doubling down on a skill set. And like, that's just another form of value. Speaking to like the truth of giving value. So I've got some age groups here kind of listed down here, totally random, 13, 14, 18, 23, etc. And like my perspective on giving value is there's always going to be someone behind you. There's always going to be someone who's like just a couple steps behind you. So like the 14-year-old and the 13-year-old, the 14-year-old probably doesn't have much like perspective or knowledge or personal experience that's valuable to a 45-year-old or 23-year-old, but the 13-year-old who can relate to them, and the 14-year-olds who've been on earth just a year longer, they might be able to share a perspective. And the 18-year-old might be able to have an interesting perspective for the 14-year-old. And so there's always going to be someone who's behind you, who's just a little bit behind you, who can get value from you sharing your perspective or your experience or knowledge. And so that's the reality of giving value. Like it's kind of like this, just sending knowledge down the road. You're kind of like down the train, like that's like the value train, if you will. There's different age groups, and there's always going to be someone behind you who can give value. The deeper perspective that we can think about when it comes to giving value is if you double down on that third form of value, which is knowledge. If you guys see that purple arrow that I've had on this visual, arrows going both ways. If you double down on that 1/3 of form of value with knowledge, like within a specific skill set, or you read a lot of books, like if you're 18 years old and you know how to run TikTok campaigns or run Facebook ads or, make a YouTube channel or work a camera or do social media marketing, you can provide knowledge to the 45-year-old or the 32-year-old who doesn't have the perspective that you have on social media and hasn't doubled down. So, just from your personal experiences and perspectives, there's people who can benefit from you. But if you double down on knowledge, you've got even more information to give to people. So if you're thinking, okay, maybe I have some value to give, maybe I can think about some skill sets or some perspectives that can be valuable to people, where should I start? what I would recommend is set some clear intentions. Like truly define what you want to do with your personal brand, what impact you want to have on people. When people interact with you on social media, what do you want them to feel? What do you want them to learn? To quote the famous philosopher Ice Cube, got to check yourself before you wreck yourself. So whether this is meditation or, something called the self-awareness test, like set some of those clear intentions. The self-awareness test specifically is just like a very basic framework to kind of identify some of your intentions. It's kind of coined by a famous personal brand and author named Chris Ducker out of the UK. It's just 3 basic questions. What do you want to be known for? What value can you provide to others? And what particular set of questions can you answer on a specific niche? And the reality is, like, by no means should you expect to have all these questions answered by the end of this webinar, end of this week, or even this year. I mean, these are deep questions that are very important to a person's life or their career. But if you can just start with, a little bit of like, what do you want to be known for? Like, David, mentioned websites, he mentioned LinkedIn, he mentioned copywriting, he mentioned a couple of these things that, okay, I would like to be famous for some of these things, or I would like to be known for some of the things. If you just have a place to start, then that's all, that's all where you need to be, because you're going to change your goals. You're going to change your intentions as you kind of progress your life. But if you can just start somewhere, then you'll just be kind of starting in a good spot. So jumping into like personal branding a little bit, specifically like content, one of my favorite things about personal branding is it becomes like a right brain creative outlet for you. Like your personal brand is your platform. It's your brand. Like you are the CEO, so you can make all the decisions. You can take as many creative risks and be adventurous with it as you would like. And then also, like with personal branding, content is a very important thing, whether it's making presentations like this or webinars or videos or blogs or YouTube videos or TikTok videos, whatever. Like these are all little creative outlets. And I just feel like we as humans, we always need to have like some type of creative outlet, just kind of keep that right brain just working for us. Again, the reality is with, personal branding, if you want to be known, you need to publish content. I'm going to like talk about goals a little bit later. So, maybe your goal isn't necessarily to be like directly famous, and I'll kind of break those down. But on just a very basic level, if you want people to know what you do, why you do it, and what you're about, how you do it, you got to publish content. Before I like start to dive more into personal branding or more into content, I would like to just kind of like step back a little bit and define what even a personal brand is, just kind of like on a basic level. And this is also like my perspective. This is like my, viewpoint on it. But I believe a personal brand is just a super fancy word for your reputation. Everyone has a reputation. Everyone has a personal brand. I mean, I guess if you're like not on the internet and totally live under a rock, maybe you don't have a personal brand, but most people, they have a reputation. They have some kind of personal brand. They have a social media channel. They have a LinkedIn, but the difference is only few take ownership over it by setting those clear intentions and then actually taking action. That taking action part is really important because we can set goals and intentions and do all this kind of stuff all day long, but it's the systems that David mentioned that are really important for you to actually achieve, your intentions or your goals. Speaking of goals, specifically within the context of personal brands, and I'm not going to like dive into these too much, but you're just 3 kind of basic categories, I guess, if you will, of goals. There's short-term goals, long-term goals, and goals that can change. So if you set a goal for yourself, your goals can change, and that's totally okay. You might have short-term goals that make sense for the first 3 months or 6 months, or maybe you have a 2-year goal if you want to publish a book. So there's many different kind of layers, if you will, of goal setting. For entry-level goals specifically, one of the first ones that I like to highlight is increase credibility and trust for your skills and the value that you have when interviewing for jobs. So a statistic that's really interesting is according to a survey by CareerBuilder, which, by the way, I can share this link for anyone who's like, I don't believe that, I got the data. But according to a survey by CareerBuilder, a full 70% of employers use social media to screen candidates before hiring. So if on your social media channel, you're publishing content around a specific skill set or knowledge or around a job that, you might do it. Okay. I think someone popped on for a second. If an employer is looking at 2 different candidates, right? They see one person, they got their website made, they put out some videos on social media, they've got some blogs made. Then they've got this other person who they don't have any of that, but maybe they have like a longer resume, which is like the typical thing that you think is like the most important benchmark on how someone might hire that person. I'm not going to say 100% you're going to get the job for sure because you have a personal brand and you have a website, but the chances are that person is going to remember you more or is actually going to, choose you for that job because there's just more weight to your words. There's more trust. And as someone who's actually hired some people before, like that's a very real thing. When I can see people are already publishing content, I can see they're risk takers, they're confident, they're sure of themselves, and they have knowledge. So that can just be a little hack for getting a job. Other entry-level goals, inbound job offers. So the difference between inbound and outbound. Outbound is essentially you walk into a company, you to get the application, you interview for it, and you hope to get a job. You pick up the phone, you call a business, and you say, hey, I've got this opportunity for you. Would you like to buy my service? Like, that's outbound, where like you take an action and you got something as a result of it. And there's nothing wrong with outbound, but something that personal branding and just the concept of personal branding can kind of bring to you is inbound. Inbound is when people see what you're doing from like maybe far away, and they're like, wow, that's someone that I want to, that's someone I want to work for my company. And if they come to you with an opportunity, they come to you, hey, I've got a job that I would love for you to take. And like, that's when personal branding honestly can get really excited, because you just start to get a lot of opportunities. And honestly, like that ultimately like will happen, like whether it's 3 months or 6 months out, like people will hit you up, for different opportunities if you're putting out content, because it's a law of attraction at play. Your content is little magnets and little seeds that can produce fruit for you. So it can just help you get inbound job offers. And the third one is move up in your company. So again, you have more credibility, you have more trust in the value that you have, or just on a very basic level, you're just more top of mind awareness for your leaders, for the executives at your company. They know that you have a website. They might even see your content on LinkedIn. So just the chances of them giving you an opportunity or just some more responsibility at the company might increase. Some pro level goals for personal brand, specifically inbound growth for your business. So again, inbound is like there's just leads or opportunities, whatever, just kind of filling in your email inbox, and that's whatever business you might have. Of course, there's some businesses that a personal brand might not drive growth for you, but I would argue that like most sectors and most industries, a personal brand can provide the inbound growth for you. Speaking opportunities, media opportunities, and then you can publish a book. The interesting thing that I kind of want to mention with these goals is 10 years ago, when personal branding wasn't as prevalent, or as, let's be honest, a bit of a buzzword these days, to publish a book, you had to spend lots of money. If you publish a book and you wouldn't have success with it, you had to spend a lot of money for a publisher company. If you want to get media opportunities or get featured in the news or go viral, you had to hire a media rep or hire some kind of agent. If you want to speak on stage to thousands of people, you had to go through some kind of speaking service company or go through the circuit training or go through all the speaking circuits. And maybe after 4 years of speaking, you get your first 500 person gig. And the reality is, if you're putting out content for your personal brand, you can have all these opportunities much, much quicker than what might be the standard, and you can control that process. You can be your own media agency, which is cool. Okay, so the goals that you set, the intentions that you set, where you want to be with your personal brand, like that, I almost want to say like those are destinations, right? Like those are places that you want to get to, but you got to get there somehow. And I believe a personal brand can be a vehicle for you. It might not be a vehicle for everyone. I know that's like the title of this presentation, but I personally believe that it can be a vehicle for most people and for most goals that they want to, get for their careers or for their life. Even if it's as simple as like, I just want to be happier more. If you have a personal brand and people are offering you opportunities, you might be able to get a better opportunity. The content is the fuel to your vehicle, though. The content is really what, pushes your vehicle to get you to your destination. Diving into content specifically, a lot of times when people get excited about their personal brand, they start posting content for the first 2 weeks or maybe the month, and then they get burnt out. They're upset because they don't know how to create any more content, or their content didn't do as well, or whatever, or maybe it's just starting a personal brand and they didn't even know what kind of content to create. This is just like a really basic framework, kind of checklist that anyone can follow. The first one, identify what you want to be known for, right? So that's just setting your clear intentions, as we talked about earlier. Number 2, chisel your reputation goals and what you want to be known for down to like 2 to 3 main topics. And then you want them to be broad, so you have enough room to kind of expand and kind of make some creative risk or anything, but you also want it to be a specific topic that you can be associated by. Number 3, create your topic wheel map, which I'll show what that is right after that. And then also, like, if you look at the topic wheel map after this slide, like it might look kind of confusing, but to everyone who's watching this, I'm going to be giving you like a little free mini course on checklist on how to create your own topic wheel. There's training with and everything, totally free. So I'm going to email that to you guys. But number 3, create your topic wheel. And what will happen is after you create your topic wheel, it almost becomes this like tree with all these different branches and topics and subtopics and stories, where if you step back, you can create what's called a 1-minute video list or blog list. And you just have endless supplies of not only just content, but that's relevant to what you want to be known for. And then number 5, of course, publish content. Because if you make content all day long, then, it doesn't matter how much content you make and then less people see it. This is my topic wheel right here. I'm not going to dive into this too much because I'm going to shoot that thing to you guys after it. But we got my main topics: marketing, personal development, education. Pretty broad, pretty high level. But if you dive a little bit more, so like in marketing specifically, retargeting funnels, like Facebook ad funnels or Google ad funnels. Like that's a specific niche within marketing, and I can come up with different blog ideas, video ideas, webinar ideas within that one small niche of retargeting funnels. And if I break it out, I mean, there's probably 30 video ideas that I can come from this. And what happens is I don't ever have an excuse not to create content, which I always need to create more content. If you still feel like you're blanking on content ideas, though, if the topic doesn't work for you or whatever, maybe it's not for everyone, collaborate. One of my favorite, brand collaborations that's relevant right now, we just got Humans in Orbit at SpaceX and NASA, but those are gigantic brands with hundreds of millions of dollars of budgets. On a very basic level, look at David and I. This is the first time we've both done a webinar, but we collaborated on it so we can leverage each other's resources, skills, talents, and expertise to hopefully create something that might be valuable to you guys. So if you can't think about anything, just collaborate with someone. One of my favorite byproducts of personal branding is you're documenting your life. So your future self will thank you for creating your content. One of my favorite things is I can look back 5 years ago when I was making skateboards as a 16, 17-year-old, and I can look at videos of me making those skateboards. I can't wait till whenever I have kids that I can show them when I was 16, 17 years old, these videos or making these vlogs type of videos or these blogs that I wrote. And I can kind of literally, as like a time capsule, go back in that time. So that's just like a byproduct of creating content. Like you're just documenting your life, you're creating your own time capsule, which is cool. Something that you might want to kind of, I guess, as a mental barrier that sometimes people have that you just kind of want to unblock and just kind of be sure of yourself is sometimes people think personal branding is just about self-promotion. But if you genuinely set your intentions that you just want to help people, provide value, share perspectives, and then you have the follow through with that, there might be 1 or 2 people every now and then who might have something to say. That's going to happen, especially as you start to get your content seen by thousands, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands of people. But just be you, and just be genuine with your intentions that you want to help people. And your personal brand won't be all about self-promotion. With content, get your reps in, right? You don't want to expect to just go viral instantly. You might. I'm not saying it's not possible, but the chances are just a little low. Don't expect for your content to drive a ton of business value, from you, from day one. Branding on the internet, branding on social media is a game of consistency. David mentioned, writing a blog every single day. One of my favorite examples of a personal brand that I look up to with consistency, Seth Godin, has written at least one blog every single day for the last 7 years. Just let that sink in for a second. Over 2 million words he's written on his blog every single day. And those 2 million words doesn't count as 18 books that he's written as well. So there's a reason why he can get paid $100,000 to speak in front of an audience from his consistency. Just remember, embrace the unique things about you, right? And be consistent with it, whether it's a visual cue or an aesthetic or a topic. Like David obviously likes sports. He mentioned sports a couple different times. In my presentation, maybe you've seen there's some purples, there's some greens. If you go to my social media profiles, my website, there's some color consistency. Be consistent with it. If you like fashion, keep a fashion aesthetic. The guy on the far right in this picture, his name is John Stone. He's a popular realtor in Greenwood, Indiana. He's got a real estate company. In all of his videos and almost all of his business meetings, whenever he's speaking on stage, he's wearing that bow tie, and it's usually a fancy, colorful bow tie. And what happens is you start to have this mental expectation that when you think about John or when you see John, oh, he's got that bow tie, that's John. Or in a completely different scenario, if you see a bow tie in a different part of the world on a different piece of content that technically it has zero association with John, you might even think about him if you see a bow tie somewhere else, if he has done a good job with being consistent with that bow tie. Other visual consistencies, just examples. Again, Seth Godin with his yellow glasses. Ninja, the famous esports and video gamer who was given $100 million by Microsoft to stream on a different platform. He's got his blue hair. And then Ariana Grande, her iconic high ponytail look. There's even case her ponytail has attributed tens of millions of dollars in value to her brand. And so those visual consistencies can be really valuable for you. If you like space or rockets, you might have some consistencies with that. Again, last Saturday, humans just went up into space. That's just absolutely crazy. But it's just these little subtle things that they might not necessarily drive crazy growth for your brand, but it's just these little subtle benefits that just helps people remember you and expect different content for you when they see you on social media or out in the world. All right, so brief recap. Number 1, know that you have value to give. Just be sure of yourself. There's someone out there who can learn from you. Number 2, set clear intentions. Number 3, create your own topic wheel map. However, you guys saw mine. Of course, you don't have to do the exact way that I made mine. make it your own way. There's just the whole point is having some kind of framework where you can come up with relevant pieces of content for your brand. Number 4, be consistent, whether that's content topics, whether that's your aesthetic or colors that you use. Just be consistent with those things. And number 5, just play the long game. Just be patient, as David said. Just get those reps in, and just be patient. So what I want to leave you guys with is 3 people who are doing a great job with their personal brands. Go look at them, observe the content they create, collect inspiration from them. And like a great quote to think about is, when you steal from one author or one person, it's plagiarism. But when you steal from many, it's research. And like, that's just the truest thing ever. So first, start off David Perel on Twitter. He crushes on his Twitter account. That's definitely his platform that he's spending 80% of his time for, probably more than that. But if you look at his bio, he's got the writing guy on there. And that's honestly true. He really has become known as the writing guy, not just because he has in his bio, but because he's so consistent with providing value out there. I'm literally about to buy into his writing course. I think he's one of the best modern writers of his age. And so that's just someone who's doing a great job, who is, identify their target audience, their niche and content. And that's something that you can get value from. David Riggs, of course, who you guys all know, who just presented, he is crushing it with his LinkedIn. I love to talk to people about LinkedIn because it really is a platform that people think is dead. And it's a platform that, to some people, a lot of people's perspectives, there's a lot of spam and just like, it's very easy to just like let LinkedIn be, a platform that drives zero value for you. But if you observe how David interacts with his community, you observe what the content that he creates, you'll start to notice and start to see why he has 15,000 connections on LinkedIn, which so many people think is a dead platform. Last person, Jen Hartman, good friend of mine. She runs the PR and social at John Deere. She is incredibly valuable. She provides a lot of interesting insights, but she's also super relatable too. If you see her pinned tweet right there, it says, 4 years of managing social media, and I know one thing, I don't know anything. Like, if that's not like the truest thing ever. I've been in social for 5 years, but I literally don't know anything. Every single day I'm like, there's just one more thing to learn. So a quote that she wanted to leave all you guys with is, it goes back to the fact that none of us really know what we're doing. So don't try to be someone else or live up to an ideal, just be 100% true to you. So with that, I am done.
Boom. I loved it. I love the color coordination too. That is way better than what I did. Cool. All right. So I'm going to basically give everyone the chance to kind of hop in here. I put mine on grid view. So I looked at some of the questions as they were coming through earlier. There was one that I wanted to start off with. It was asked about the 80-20 rule. So it said, in your 80-20 rule, do you take into account platforms that can be closely linked? For example, for someone writing, could be a great idea to post on Twitter and LinkedIn because it gives the content a bigger audience. 100%. So that's something that I actually do a little bit with LinkedIn and Twitter. So what I do actually is I'll use LinkedIn as a place to create a lot of my content. But if I have new ideas, if I'm wanting to test new things, I'll actually kind of link my Twitter and LinkedIn together and use Twitter to test a lot of my headlines. Another example of how I do that is every Saturday, I know this was another question that I'll touch on as well. Every Saturday, I wake up and write one or two articles. What I'll do with those articles is I'll sit back down maybe an hour later after I'm done, and I'll go through and I'll pick out main points from those articles, and I'll turn it in and basically spin off those mini points into their own posts. So one article turns into like 4 or 5 LinkedIn posts for me. And then from those LinkedIn posts as well, I'll spin off even smaller parts. And then, each LinkedIn post will make 2 or 3 tweets. So then at the end of this, I have around 20 pieces of content, let's say, that I can go turn around and publish. So I think with the 80-20 rule, that's a really good point to make, is that it's going to save you time that, if you're good on 2 or 3 platforms or 3 or 4 platforms in total, and all of those platforms are kind of linked, maybe they all have a writing base or maybe they all have a visual base, you have a really good chance to save time, but also leverage a lot of that content as well.
Repurposing content is key.
Yeah. You have anything to add?
No, that's all I want to add. Just the fact that you can write a blog and get 30 links, like all that's dude, repurposing is like growth hacking for social media.
Cool. Brandon, I'm going to answer your question. So Brandon said, content creation on Saturday. How often do you change it from the time you make it to post it? Do you worry about random events that happen in real time that may make you change your content you previously made? I lived this out today. So this is kind of the use of unprecedented is at an unprecedented level right now. We use it all the time, but really it's a crazy time right now. And this is something that I lived out today. in the sense that, I had a post queued up, ready to go on LinkedIn, decided to cancel it and just wait for tomorrow, or maybe wait later this week. The short answer is I like creating on Saturday because it removes myself from the situation later in the week when I actually have to make those decisions, right? To have content ready, to know that all I have to do is literally click the publish button, it makes it a lot easier. But on weeks like this, or even months and years like this, every single day, there's a reason that I don't necessarily like scheduling content. So I'll write everything off platform and then I'll just pull it over and publish it. The reason I don't like scheduling content is because I like to fill out the content or fill out the context of the platform that I'm on before I post. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, literally every platform right now, they're not really in the mood to get, tips on how to improve your website. That's not the context. So weeks and months and honestly years like this, like I said, it's a good time to take a step back. And before you actually post, and honestly, I'd take everything off your schedulers, the next month, manually go in and post stuff to make sure that you're filling out the context on those platforms.
If you got ads running right now, turn them off, especially if you're selling something. Read the room.
Cool. Well, I got one more. Jeremy, I know a lot of you guys left questions on the forum. If you guys want to ask them now, that would be awesome. I know I have it pulled up and Jeremy probably has it pulled up as well, some of those questions that were asked. So if you guys want to ask them, feel free to, but Jeremy and I will probably address them. The last one I want to touch on, Jackson, you said, where do you find people begin to confuse or get frustrated between their basic and advanced targets for personal branding? Pretty sure you're talking about the kind of like the target audience. I think people get frustrated because they expect it to be a one-day task. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to grab my notebook right here. I'm going to list out everything, and then I'm going to magically have like the perfect target audience, right? Defining that target audience, especially on the basic or the more advanced features, is really going to be an ongoing process. Our target audience changes monthly. To be truthful, I try to revisit it every single month because things change. People get older. People have different tastes. New softwares come on the market. New technology comes on the market. So I think where I see people get the most frustrated is that they sit down and they want to define their target audience in 24 hours and make that be the one and then stick with it for years later. And I think the best marketing teams out there are the ones that actively pivot, the ones that actively change up, who they're targeting, not necessarily in the sense that they're over obsessed with who they're targeting, but they're empathetic. They know what's going on in the market. Right now my target audience changed a little bit because we used to target real estate agents and our real estate agents couldn't even show their homes. So we had to pivot a little bit and look at, other people who's finding success, who's going to need our product. So I think it's a longer answer, but I think people get frustrated the most whenever they trying to find it in one day, 1 hour, one sit down and think that's going to be it. You have to really, discipline yourself to revisit that target audience month in, month out. I wouldn't even say daily. Just understand the new trends, the new landscape, and how you can better articulate points to those people.
And if like you don't really know who your target audience is, just come up with a base idea and just test it. Like experimenting on social media, experimenting with content, testing where you like try something and then you observe the results and you like kind of reflect on it is honestly like that's what I do for almost all my ad campaigns. All my content is like, yes, I have a little bit of an expectation of what might happen, but I'm just testing it. And then after a couple of tests, I'm like, okay, who most, responded to this content or who gave me the most feedback on. So if you don't have any ideas on, who you might be a target, maybe you can narrow it down just a little bit and then just test that audience with some content and just see how they like it, see how they respond for it, ask feedback, take the MVP, kind of approach with it.
Yeah. Jackson, you asked one more question. I'm going to pass it off to Jeremy because I want him to talk. Jackson said, also specifically for systems, what kind of resources are out there? Truly, other than managing content, I don't really use a lot of systems. I use what's called Notion and Trello to manage everything. But I know, Jeremy, you've used Buffer in the past. I'm assuming you're probably a TweetDeck guy. What are some good ones out there?
I don't even like I don't really like to schedule tweets. I like it more native. I don't really like automating stuff. But as far as like just goal setting, planning out content, like Aaron mentioned right there, Trello is amazing. Asana is dope. If you want to create content, both David and I made our presentations in Canva. Like I use Photoshop and Illustrator every now and then. I'm bad at Illustrator, honestly. I use Photoshop pretty often, but just about 2 weeks ago, I started using Canva, and it is so simple and easy to create presentations, to create slides, to create graphics, all those different things. So there's honestly so many tools and systems out there that it's very, very easy to get overwhelmed. just pick a few that, based off a few recommendations of people you trust, and just test them, test them out for your own lifestyle, test them out for your own goals, and just observe if you like them, observe how they make you more effective, more efficient, etc.
I love it. Cool. I'll give, people, see if they want to ask any other questions. I got some extra ones pulled up, but would love to hear from you guys if you have some questions that you guys kind of thought of when Jeremy and I were presenting.
Someone hop on. Who's gonna do it? Who's got the courage?
Hey, what's up? What's up, guys?
Giva, what's up, brother?
Hey, I really loved listening to you guys talk, because as a peer, these are things that I do daily. And it's nice to hear that other people have the same ideas and all that. My biggest obstacle for me is, sure, I can write down my goals document. I can do all that stuff. And sure, I can put in systems into place, put in reminders, put in all this. But I feel like the hardest thing is motivating myself to get through, the first part and the second part. And for example, for Instagram, I've been doing it for 3 years as an artist. And I definitely have seen growth, and I've been consistent when I need to. But what allows you, and for me, social media and marketing, all that is never going to be my career path. I'm in aerospace engineering, so that's like my first priority. But I think as an overarching thing, if you want to really contribute to the world in any way, you need to market that. You need to show what you know in order for other people to take that and better themselves down the line. But in terms of all of the work that we need to put in to just get there, it's a lot of tasks, and it's a lot of, you got to do this one small thing, this one big thing. What do you do every day? And I know, especially for now, it's the summer for me, to get up and, get on that grind and really like focus and get things you need to get done.
Okay. So basically your question is like, how do you kind of get to those first couple steps and just kind of get that ball rolling?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, dude, there's definitely like a lot of tactics and strategies that like can be overwhelming. It's like, where's the first place to start? But if you just keep it simple and just like, okay, is there a blog that you can write about your personal journey going through college and learning about aerospace engineering? Maybe there's a blog or a video that you can make about why you like aerospace engineering and like the effects aerospace engineering has on society that makes it a little bit more relatable to other people. People are like, well, I didn't even realize aerospace engineering affected this one thing that I do in my life. So there's definitely a lot of systems and tactics and everything that can kind of be overwhelming. But the reality is, like, if you just get that first post out or that first, action, it's going to be so much easier. Like the 4-minute mile wasn't impossible until Roger Bannister did it. And, like, the year after it, over 100 people, completed it. And so like, not only if you just like get that ball rolling, it's going to be consistent. The momentum is going to go. If you can kind of break through all the noise of all the tactics and strategies, because yes, tactics and strategies are important, but action is far more important. But then B, if you're just authentic and like genuine and in your content, you're just like, hey, I'm just trying out content for the first time with my personal brand. I don't really know what to do with it. Don't really have much ideas, but I've been encouraged to just put something out. If you're like transparent with that, people will respect that. And then they won't have these crazy high expectations with you where you're going to have to be delivering all this crazy value. And, you have to be translating aerospace engineering to be relatable to some other people that might not be related. Like they just won't have these expectations. And honestly, they're going to respect you more. If like all the content that you put out after that, they're just going to be a little bit more, honestly, easier on you and nicer on you. Because you're not, trying to show up and be like, all right, I'm going to be the best aerospace engineer in Indianapolis. You're just like, hey, I'm passionate about aerospace engineering. I'm a student. I've been able to learn some things here and there. I got some fun perspectives. I try to learn stuff about aerospace engineering often. I actually just recently read this blog that blew my mind about X. And I wanted to make this 2-minute video for you guys explaining some of my key takeaways. And like, it can literally just be like as simple as that. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I think the main thing for me is I have all these big ideas, but turning those into actions, I feel like is the hardest part, Like I can sit here and I can plan out, all day. But like getting that first, sentence down, getting that first post up while still expanding on your skills, I feel like that's the hardest thing. And especially in quarantine, it's not like, I can go out and, talk to people. It's like, all right, we just have to sit here and, get that first action done. And I feel like that's the hardest part for me.
Yeah, you can real quick. Aaron just left a really good example. Like, I guess I don't have it pulled up. Basically, like, find people that are going to back you up. One of the cooler things that I've done, helping me grow my personal brand at least, is to treat myself like not even a full-on media company, like a full-on company. What does Nike do? What does Adidas do? How do they carry out, projects and tasks? Like, Nike has this huge idea. How does it go from idea to market? One of the things that, every one of those companies has is a board of directors, right? So a few years ago, I created literally my own personal board of directors, and it's not formal. It's not like we're all in a group chat. It's not like I'm reporting to them weekly, but it's 5, 6, 7, 8 people that I can consistently go to. And I really use it as a chance to, if I'm struggling, like if I need to write, let's say a 30-page PDF that I want to publish, I want to hold myself to a goal of like, it's June 1st, let's say July 1st, right? One, I can sit down, start working on it. And truthfully, I'm a lot like you. I may lose that, ability to keep it going, right? So what I'll do is I'll go to that personal board of directors. I'll literally text 5, 6, 7 of them, be like, hey, I got this to do. It has to be done by this day. Please hold me accountable throughout. And that has been probably one of the biggest game changers because, Nike and Adidas, all those companies, they have a board of directors, and that's an idea that's not necessarily reserved just if you have a massive Fortune 500 company, right? Those are ideas that we can steal and implement as well. So honestly, I challenge you to do 2 things. One, lean on your community. Go find 4 or 5 close friends, even 2 or 3 close friends. I think we all have people that we can lean on that we're comfortable with. And 2, use your Instagram. You said you've been there for a while and you're building a community. Lean on them, right? Like literally throw up a story and be like, hey, I want to get this done by this time. Hold me accountable. Like I'm opening up if you can close messages or close inbox on Instagram. I don't know if you can anymore. DM me every once in a while. Hold me accountable. I'm going to try and post a story, every other day about it. Make sure that, I'm actually doing what I said I was going to do. So that would be my short answer.
Oh, you're muted. You're muted, David. David.
Oh, did I mute? Am I back?
No, you're good. I think someone else muted you.
Well, yeah, long story short, lean on your community. They're there. That's the best way to move forward. Those people believe in you, trust in you, and they're definitely going to want to help you, reach those goals and actually have you succeed.
Perfect answer.
Thanks, that's awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Going back through here, feel like you guys, keep, hopping on, asking questions. I'm just looking through the chat, see if there's some.
Has got a really good question on imposter syndrome.
Let's see it. You want to take it?
I'll take the first stab, and then you follow up with this. So imposter syndrome is a real thing. Like I think Dave and I, a lot of people on this call can definitely realize that it's something that that you might experience every time. But having that tribe, having that board of directors that you can be authentic with and say like, hey, I'm not even feeling confident to be able to do anything, and then having them kind of come back and say, no, you have value to give, or no, that is valuable, is super key. Because if you want to go fast, you are muted. There you go. Sorry, sir. But yeah, so imposter syndrome is real. So just have a tribe or board of directors. It's interesting being in 2020 where we're all doing all these Zooms and everything, like Zoom bombing and Google Meet bombing. It's a real thing. I don't know if you guys have seen those memes of those teachers or professors having a class and someone jumps on. It's just hilarious. But yeah, imposter syndrome, just have a community, a tribe of people that you can relate to, or be authentic with and say these are things that you're and have the courage to be open about that. But then be it's just what I first started with my with my presentation. You have value to give, so don't try to be this huge pompous person, try to be a Gary Vaynerchuk, because of course if you try to be a public speaker or a famous person in the first couple months, you're going to struggle with imposter syndrome quite often because it just doesn't feel authentic. But if you just genuinely, all right, I'm going to try to be valuable as just be a little bit valuable on my content on social media, then the chances of you having or experiencing imposter syndrome would go lower. But you might still experience it every now and then, and just have your crowd, have your team of people who can encourage you and keep pushing you forward.
Yeah, no, that's I guess the only way I'm going to piggyback off of that is, social media is known for people kind of fronting and putting themselves on a pedestal. really showing off their successes. And I think that adds into imposter syndrome, right? Part of, breaking that mold is also accepting the stage that you're in. I'm not a millionaire. Maybe I want to be there one day. There are other people that I follow that are multimillionaires. I'm not there, but at the same time, like, I'm running my race, I'm playing my game, I'm going off of my play. So the first thing that really helped me with that, because I started posting on LinkedIn as a sophomore in college. I was posting marketing advice, and I had never taken a marketing class, and I, to this day, have never taken a formalized marketing class in my life. It scares me knowing that, technically I shouldn't probably be talking about this because I haven't really ever been taught it. I've just lived it. And I think that's a really good piece of advice if you go for dealing with imposter syndrome. Talk about what you've actually done and talk about what you've actually lived out, and you will never have to worry about it because those are your experiences. That's you. The other thing I'd say as well, back to the personal board of directors, send them LinkedIn posts. Be like, hey, this one felt a little weird. Like, what do you guys think? Is this me? Is it not me? Like, be harsh, be loving, give me some tough love. Like, do you think it's too much, too little? And what you'll find is that you are probably your hardest critic. Those people that are going to support you are going to be honest with you that, maybe it is too over the top and they'll tell you, but 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to hold yourself to a crazy high standard or a weird standard that's hard to meet just because that's how humans are. That's psychology. But hopefully that answers that. I'm looking through. Cool. Looks like we ran through those. I know we've had slowly people dwindling off because we're right at an hour. If you guys got to get, feel free to. I'm not necessarily ever going to close this until about, 8:30, 8:45. So if you guys want to stay on until it gets smaller and ask your question, feel free to. Jeremy and I are just going to hang out. We do this on phone calls and video chats anyway. So you guys are just kind of dropping in our conversation. So if you guys got places to do, no hard feelings, drop off. Thanks for coming. But other than that, feel free to keep dropping some questions in here. I got a few pulled up as well. So if there's a lull, I'll be able to add a couple to it.
Thanks for the session, guys. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, brother.
See ya.
Peace.
Cool. I'll let a few people log off. There's one that I really wanted to tackle. It's from my cousin, if JM's still on. What are ways you recommend gaining engagement in the very saturated space of automotive? I think that's a brilliant question. I'm going to kind of back it out of automotive because I think this is a strategy that you can use across, plenty of different disciplines. Let's talk about just what are the ways you can gain engagement on a very, saturated market in general, whether you're automotive or longboarding or marketing or webinars, list goes on. I think to gain engagement on those places that are super saturated, that, there's a ton of people vying for the same attention. What I want you to do is, sit down, define that actual market. For this instance, let's say it's automotive. Then I want you to go literally to an entirely different market. I want you to go to something that's not even connected. So for this, let's just say we're going to go to online education. Let's jump over to online education. Automotive, online education, two different things. Basically, what you should do is just, go follow like 4, 5, 6, or 7 online education creators on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. Look at the strategies and tactics of what they're doing. Figure out what their playbook is. Find the things that you think really work for them, but also that you think you'd be able to carry out. Really just cherry pick them, drop them back over into your market and see what happens. I think some of the coolest things that have happened in marketing or whenever these two disciplines kind of intertwine, or you see something that happens in one space automatically happen in another space, right? I'll give you a good example. There's been a lot of webinars right now on sales. That's literally on LinkedIn. My entire feed is like happy hours. Let's talk about sales with sales professionals. Loved it. There was nothing about personal branding and marketing. So that's a really easy example. Like, you're taking a strategy from one place, dropping it to another place. So that would be my idea. That would be my go-to is that, go research what other people are doing, because chances are, we're all connected by one thing, and that's psychology. We all have similar traits that we all act whenever we're presented with social media content or we're online in general. The strategies and the underlying tactics that work in one market will, and I wouldn't say 100%, probably 90% work in your market as well. You just have to find a way to tailor them and tweak them.
Great answer.
Cool. Jeremy, you got a question you want to tackle?
Yeah. Okay. One person mentioned she's like how she would like to speak, but how does she get over the fear of showing up to build an audience or speak to an audience? And this is one thing I think that either Dave and I were just talking before this, or maybe the few minutes before. But like, I've hired a coaching like actual speech coach. Like one thing that they taught me, Thaddeus Rex, is that nervousness that you have, that a little bit of anxiety that you have right before speaking or going on a webinar or making that first post or doing that Instagram show, whatever, that is actually your ability to provide more value and to be more, just have more clear thoughts on like what you're trying to do. So the reality is you might be a little bit nervous, but you can channel that energy and just providing, you know, just more quality information or presentation. If you just go up there willy-nilly, oh, this will be easy, like no problem, you know, there's just a chance you might not be as valuable because you're just kind of like going through the motions. And then something like tactically, specifically, like I have anxiety, like it's a real thing. And like, I'll speak in front of, you know, X amount of people. And I'll literally have to do breathing exercises right before on the stage. Like before going up on stage, I'll just do some deep breaths and just some mental affirmations. And, you know, it's a real thing that you might have to, you know, overcome. So if you can just identify what habits that you need to have in your own life, whether it's breathing or having someone else encourage you to be able to kind of break through that fear a little bit, but then also leveraging a little bit of that fear energy and just providing a better, you know, experience to those people, then, you know, you can be coaching. Again, the first speaking engagement, the first video, the first webinar, you're going to be so much more nervous than the second one and third one. And by the time you do the 10th one, you're going to be teaching others how to do it. So.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, if I could jump in there real quick. I was helping teach a class actually last semester at school. And when we moved online, everything was done on the computer, right? So we had to be on Skype, and I try to like teach these kids how to do whatever it was. I think the hardest part is always talking to a camera, and it's always going to be like that. Even talking in person, a lot of times you want to say the perfect thing and you want to say it in the most correct way, but it's never going to come out like that if you keep that expectation in your head. And the biggest thing is to just treat it as you're talking to some friends, you're chilling out, you're learning something new, and not put so much pressure on yourself to perform. A lot of good like football players, the reason why they're good is because it's not like, oh, I got to win the Super Bowl. It's like, all right, let's get this next play. Let's get this next game. So it's just take one sentence and you go to the next one, you go to the next one, and eventually it'll be easy.
Facts. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd say nice the only thing I'd add to that is, you know, consistency will build, or basically quantity is going to build quality in your content. But in the same way, like consistency is going to build confidence. I'm the same way. Literally in high school, would not even raise my hand in class, even if I knew the answer and knew I could knock it out of the park. In college, I kind of changed that. I tried to change it at least. It was like, I'm going to start participating more because this is a skill that I need to practice. And I think there's too many lessons hidden in there. One, you just got to go out and do it. And that's the uncomfortable answer. There's not going to be a growth hack or a hack in general to get comfortable with it. But the other thing is put yourself in those positions as much as possible. There's an idea like exposure therapy. I don't know too much about it, so don't quote me if I'm way off. But it's the idea like the more that you expose yourself to a certain situation, the more familiar your body gets with it, and the less defensive it is. So if it's public speaking, if it's posting on social media, you know, run straight through that wall. If it's posting, to make it as simple as possible, make that habit as easy to do as possible, and just do it as many times as possible. Really get those reps in. That would be my answer. But there was a question that hopped on from Jose. What is a good tip to build a personal website? Jeremy's going to leave this one for me, I'm sure. But the basic idea here, if you're going to build a good like personal website, you're not necessarily interested in, you know, selling any big product or service. Maybe you just want to use it to build friendships and build new connections or build new networks. The simple strategy is what I call just like a 4 or 5 page website. So the first page is going to be a home page. The second page is going to be an about page. That about page should include a little bio about yourself. It should also include like a vision statement or a why statement. Like, you know, you're here, you're building stuff right now. You're wanting to build a website. You're posting on social media. Like, why are you doing that? And that's a statement that I would also include on that about page. The third page I would include, I say services page. This is where if you're not selling your services, I would still recommend something like this. Maybe it's a skills page or a portfolio page. If you are selling something, let's say you want to consult for brands on social media, we'll use that as an example. That services page should lay out, this is more like the marketing side of it, what the value is, what the pricing is, how they can learn more, what are next steps. If it's just a simple like skills page, let's say, the skills could be as simple as like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I love to build websites. I'll use myself as an example because I'm super familiar with it. Love to build websites. I'm not really interested in building anyone else's websites. I'm more interested in, maybe landing a full-time job or just learning more. Here are the skills I currently know. Here are some examples of what I built. That could be a way to go with that. And then the final page would just be a contact page. How can they contact you? Which is as simple as that. So I would keep it simple. I would keep it sleek. If you're a writer, I would also throw in a blog there as well, just to drive some traffic. Whenever we're talking macro strategy, I think there's a lot of places that you can go to build a website. I personally am going to recommend Wix. It's very low barrier to entry. It's very simple to get started. For a beginner, even for someone who's advanced, I think it's an awesome platform. Squarespace is another one that's pretty good. And then Webflow would be another suggestion I'd have for you. Webflow is a bit more advanced, but I would probably, start with Wix or Squarespace. Keep it simple. Have a home page, about page, a contact page, and then either like a skills or services page, and then potentially a blog as well.
Also hire David's company.
Cool. So I want to dive in. I like this one. It was from Elizabeth. I don't know if she made it tonight. Basically, it says, I'm a quiet person by nature, so getting my personal message into people's space isn't a comfortable thing for me to do. How can I balance projecting who I am with respecting people's space and avoiding being a giant fake? I think that's a really good question. I personally, if 4 years ago, if you would have told me I would have had a webinar, 40-ish people showed up and 100 people signed up, I would have laughed at you because I was a full-on introvert. Still am in a lot of ways. I think one is you're going to have to, build the exposure again, get out, get your reps in and get practice. But two, also, know your strengths. Being an introvert doesn't mean that you have to force yourself to be an extrovert, because I wouldn't even say the majority of people are. Just extroverts make it known that they're extroverted because they're naturally outgoing on social media, right? Use that introvertedness, use the quiet side to you as an advantage. Take more time to reflect. Maybe you're writing more blogs. Maybe you're writing more longer form content to actually play to your strengths. I really just want to come back to the idea. Find out who you are as a person before you do any of this. Learn about your strengths and weaknesses and pick certain things that are actually going to help you succeed. If you don't like video, do not build on YouTube. But if you like writing, maybe Medium and LinkedIn are a good place to start. Cool.
How's this webinar been for you guys? If you guys could share some feedback. Yeah, good. Caitlin, I see you drawing there. So awesome. I love that. Again, the consistencies, like that's just something that I might expect. So like that's dope. Awesome, Noah. Right on.
Love it. Thank you, Noah.
Oh shoot.
Oh, I'm all about that.
Dang.
Yep. Thank you, Caitlin. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Jose. Thank you. Yeah, I was hoping the Q&A would be good. I always like having the Q&A because I actually get to chat with the people who are on the other side of the screen. As much as I like to know what you guys are thinking, there's always things that you guys may not bring up or I may not get, hit right on the head. So I'm excited that we actually got to dive into it a little bit more. I'm looking at questions. I don't want to tire you guys out. Any chance you could glance at my question? Yes, Noah, I must have completely missed it. You want to hop on and ask it? Because I can't find it.
Maybe he meant one that he put in the form, maybe. I don't see it in the chat.
Yeah, sorry. I was talking about the one I'd asked prior. To be
I got you. Is it discuss how to communicate your authentic self through mediums that sometimes feel superficial?
Yeah, and I think you kind of already touched on that a little bit, but if you want to discuss that a little more, feel free.
Yeah, no, I like this because social media, like I said, is for a lot of people still today. I think if you're on this webinar, you're trying to be a more authentic personal brand. I think you're one of the minorities on social media because a lot of people are still virtue signaling. They're on there talking only about accomplishments, showing only half the side of the coin. So I think, how to communicate your authentic self. Again, the first thing I would do, lean on that board of directors. Who is going to call you whenever you actually, push it a bit too far or expound on the truth a little too much and make it seem a bit too superficial. Find those people and keep them close, because they're not only going to be good for content, they're going to be good for life in general. But the other thing I would challenge you to do as well is there's a quote in a book by Scott Galloway. It's called The Algebra of Happiness. Basically, it's like things are never as good as they seem, but they're never as bad as they seem. And I think the concept relates a lot to the way I try and be authentic on social media, is that things are never as good as I make them out to be, but they're never as bad as I make them out to be as well. So, I honestly will try and be very conversational on there. I don't try and stand on my pedestal per se. But I think in writing and creating that content, it may be hard to tell, but your actions of what you do on those platforms are really going to show off if you're disciplined and you're really bought into the idea that you need to be authentic on social media. So it always cracks me up. And this isn't an example, I guess. The people of the world that are like, build a personal brand, be authentic, talk to your audience, like it'll be a great thing to do. And then they never engage with their audience. They never respond to comments. They never respond to DMs. If they do, they're snarky. Like, that's a person that's not necessarily like walking the walk, right? They're just talking it and they're leaving it there. So I'd say, how to communicate your authentic self. Communicate normally, lean on that board of directors. But what I would say is, ingrain in your mind how to actually be an active, authentic person on social media. Go and comment on other people's posts and leave your 2 cents. Like, be real about it. Be upfront and honest about it. Like, if that's something that you disagree with, straight up disagree with it. Like, no one's going to kick you off of LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter because you disagreed, or, if that makes you feel, or like you resonate with that and you struggled with the same thing, drop that as well. Vulnerability and being authentic is a daily practice. It's not something that when you sit behind a keyboard, you start typing, authenticity is going to, pour out of you on the first time. It's going to be something that you're going to have to actively practice day in and day out to really make happen. Hopefully that gives you some answers. That's a hard one to like be tactical with, but I think, that's another one that you got to be consistent with day in and day out and really, I guess, more or less rewire your brain to be authentic and be vulnerable.
Right. 100%. No, that definitely made sense. And I know that topic of authenticity is definitely hard to capture just within, a 2-minute, 3-minute response. Right. But I appreciate that. And you're definitely right about people being, not in it for the right reasons per se. And you can definitely see that, and that bleeds through. So I think, like you're saying, just being true to yourself and, just keep checking in with yourself as well as checking in with your board of directors. So I think that was great. So thanks.
I love it. And if you plant your flag in the ground by like literally coming out and saying like, hey guys, whether it's in your writing content or your videos, by literally saying, hey, I don't want to come across as some inauthentic person. I just want to be valuable to you guys. It's weird for literally by saying it's weird for me to put content on social media. When you start to do those, you're just removing the walls of expectations, and ultimately it's the expectations that we give ourselves or the expectations that we think other people have for us is what kind of really creates those fears in our brains. So if you just it's just like the Eminem strategy, right? He started making fun of himself, and then the other rapper couldn't even have any disses for him if you ever watch 8 Mile. So if you just make fun of yourself, if you just kind of not obviously just make fun of yourself, but if you're just more willing to just not be this pompous person who has everything going for yourself, then people just won't be thinking that you're just out to sell them things, or they're not going to associate you with these other people who like David mentioned, who talk all these things, but they definitely don't walk it, because you don't want to become a hypocrite, of course, but you see that often on social media. But if you're open about it and you literally say these aren't things that you want to do and that you want to strive to be authentic, and you literally invite people in your journey by saying, let me know if you guys like this content, if you don't like it, if you feel if you really invite people on your journey, then you're gonna create your community who supports you rather than tears you down, and that support really will keep that courage and that confidence for you to keep putting content out.
Yep. Jamie asked, what has inspired your personal brand? Oh, sorry, no, are you gonna hop in?
Well, I was just gonna say thanks.
Be polite.
Yeah, Jamie asked, what has inspired your personal brand aesthetic? You both have very distinctive looks for your brands. I'm gonna be the first to admit and be authentic and vulnerable. When I started the aesthetic side of my brand, I had literally no idea what I was doing. No idea. I didn't know what the word typography meant. I didn't know where to make a logo. It is changed and iterated since I started. That was about 2.5 years ago. I think my first logo was my first name with a period behind it in Canva with their default font. So I learned, I think, Jamie, when you asked that, I'm assuming you're trying to get at like, how do I build the aesthetic of my brand? What I would tell you to do, again, Jeremy had a quote, if you steal from one person, it's called plagiarism. If you, steal from a lot of people, it's called research. Go do some research. Jeremy and I are good examples of aesthetics, but like there are a lot of people out there that have like real brands. David Carell, noticeable. The guy that Jeremy mentioned earlier, the writing guy, is noticeable because he has a weird typeface or font that looks like handwriting. And I always know it's David's slides because that's the aesthetic of his brand. I would go out and really, hone in on what other people are doing. I think that's the quickest way to really, I don't like growth hacks. That's the quickest way to get that growth, though, to actually understand what you need to be doing. If you hit the same wall day in and day out, it's going to take you, let's say, a week to get through the wall, or you can turn around and see the door and walk out the door and get out quicker. Use the things that are in front of you. Don't necessarily feel like you have to, work super, super hard to figure that out. Find resources in front of you that are actually going to help you, aesthetically, let's say for the growing the brand, aesthetically help you, give some guidelines to grow your brand. I'm thinking now, I guess 2.5 years later, the things I would start with from an aesthetic side, and maybe I'll go on the messaging side after. The aesthetic side is simple. I would go with like a logo. I would literally make sure to go pay for a headshot. If you think you can do it and it's professional, go do it. I would go with a logo. I would pick white and black are your two main colors, and then I would add one more, an accent color. Maybe it's blue, maybe it's neon green, maybe it's bright yellow, maybe it's pink, orange, whatever you want to do, add in an accent color. And then also just go on to Canva or search like, what are modern typefaces? Those are really the 3 or 4 things that I would start with in a basic, because you can use those typefaces, the logos, the colors on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Those are things you can kind of carry with you and make your brand recognizable. When it comes to the messaging side of your brand, I would return to the slide earlier in the slide deck. That's the Michael Jordan one with the I help. I turn that slide, really hone that statement.
Yeah.
Hey,
and
can I speak this for a second?
Yep.
So I actually, for the past, 5 or 6 years, I've been working on logo and identity branding and design. And I made my own personal brand design-wise, per se, back in sophomore year of high school. So that's been like 5 or 6 years now, maybe 7 years. I don't know. Actually, it's 8. I'm old. But when you start thinking about what your personal brand will be aesthetically, you need to first think about what is your identity as a person, and what kind of effect do you want to give onto others. And I know, so what I usually do is I would start out with like a mood board, find images or feelings from images that really represent you. When I did mine, I wanted my personal brand to have I created 4 words essentially in terms of my personal brand that would embody everything that I put out. And from that, I said discovery, I wanted to be modern, minimalist, and personal were the 4 words that I chose. And from there, you start drawing out your logo or drawing out what kind of feeling you want to embody. And from there, for the logo, that is something that takes a lot of people, a lot of time and effort to really grasp. So if you don't want to create your own logo, you can always hire somebody to help you figure out what your logo will look like. But with the logo, you always want to create something that's aesthetically simple. If you look at the top logos for the top companies, you look at Nike, you look at Starbucks, you look at, et cetera, et cetera. These are logos that are not too complex, and they're scalable from big sizes to small sizes, and they always look good in black and white. But the main thing you want to focus on is, does this represent the messaging that I'm going to write, or the kind of values that I want to put out there? Does this represent, if your content is educational, does this represent something that shows learning and discovery and forethought? All of that goes into that. But you need to figure out personally, what kind of feeling do you want to inspire in others? And that's what you do aesthetically through your logo and things like that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Dude, speaking of big companies, if you look at Apple's first logo compared to now, it is like night and day, completely different. So like to what David said, like if you just start out with just a base idea, you're going to change it, you're going to iterate it many times. Like my website for like 5 months ago was just an HTML website and it looked terrible. And it looked completely different to what my website is now. And now, because like I hired a professional who made it aesthetic, now I can drive leads there. I can drive people there. I can make it my home, as David said. So if you just start somewhere, that's a great place to start. It doesn't need to be perfect in the beginning because you're going to change and iterate it as you kind of go. And like those colors, the purple and greens that you see on my social media, so I didn't start doing that till literally like 2 or 3 months ago. So if you just find a place to start, just be open to changing and iterating, just kind of as you go and as you continue to build your personal brand.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other last questions? Well, I appreciate all you guys coming on. Dave, I honestly, dude, like I took some notes just from your presentation. I was learning along with all you guys, honestly. And like
I'm glad I could help. I learned from yours as well. You killed the aesthetic. I should have done better. But cool guys. Well, I know we're closing on 6:30. That is when I said this would formally end.
6:30 for David, by the way. I think we're all in.
6:30 for me. I'm in Denver, Colorado. So I guess 8:30 for some of you guys, 7:30 maybe for others. So I'll go ahead and I'll close it. Jeremy and I will stick around if you guys want to say peace out or whatever. Go ahead and keep an eye out for a few things after this. We'll send you each an email personally from our own emails, giving you some more resources, giving you some ideas maybe about what we talked about. And then knock on wood, if I can work quick enough, I'm going to try and have this recording up onto the agency website so you can go back and visit it later. We'll include some show notes. We'll include links to David Pearl's Twitter bio, different things that we've referenced, maybe some quotes as well that you guys liked. We'll try and add all of that stuff onto the website, really treat that website like a home, so to say, and really add a lot of that stuff on there. I guess the last thing I would say, if you want to ask us more questions, outside of this webinar, Jeremy is active on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, with the website as well. I'm thinking I hit all of them. I'm super active on LinkedIn and Twitter. Have my website as well. And then I also occasionally check Instagram like once a week. So if that's your place, feel free to shoot me a DM. But, happy to stay in touch with you guys outside of this. Jeremy, if you have anything else to add, I'm going to clear out these messages real quick.
I just commend all you guys for, joining a webinar right now. There's some pretty crazy shit going on right now in the world. And you guys are here learning about how to build your brand and how to set goals and think about aesthetics for your website. So I just am grateful that you're all here, that you guys have been giving us our time. And just like David said, we're available and accessible through social media. Hit us up. We've got blogs, we've got videos that we can share with you guys, even after the email that we send you guys. So at the end of the day, we want to be resources to you guys. We're by no means an experts. I literally hate that word, but we might have some perspectives or some personal experiences that might be valuable for you guys. So, feel free to use us as resources in your guys' own journeys when you're building out your websites, thinking about content for your social media, or just thinking about your personal brand or corporate company brand in general. So appreciate all you guys hopping in.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Right on, right on.
Thank you guys so much. See ya.
Yeah, thank you.
See you, Jose. Appreciate you, man.
See you guys. Boom, closing out. As always, you guys can hit us up on other social media networks, but keep an eye out for that email, and I will make sure that we get that stuff out to you guys pretty quickly. Cool. I'm going to formally end the meeting. Thank you, Noah and my mom, for staying through
the final two.
Dude, what's up? I haven't seen you in forever. It's like a reunion.
Dude, I'm ugly now, so don't look at me too much.
I haven't shaved your beard too long.
I literally have a
You see this hair growing back out, Noah?
Dude, yeah, dude. I'm right there with you. I've got some wigs going, dude.
Noah knew me back in the day when I had the long hair. This is nothing compared to what I used to have.
Yeah, the half top knot thing. I don't know what you called that thing. So
I don't know what I called it either. I'm still not sure why I did it. I think I thought I was Gareth Bale.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, I played the same position, so I must have. It was a combination of that, and I was obsessed with Steve Nash when I was younger. always wanted to grow it out. So I was like, I'm taking my chance.
Steve,
Dude, are you gonna do the same thing? I mean, you're halfway there.
Who, me?
No, I'm sorry, David.
It's coming back out. I haven't cut it since November.
Dang, all right.
Really? Since November?
Yeah.
Holy crap. Dude,
It was like November, December. It was basically, I remember I got a horrible haircut. Didn't feel like going outside with the horrible haircut. So I took it down to a 2. And then I haven't cut it since the 2.
Dang.
Wow. I haven't cut mine since like February, and I actually have a mullet, but I'm getting my hair cut on Wednesday, so I'm excited.
What are you gonna do? Real short?
I'm either gonna like just thin it out a little bit, honestly, and keep it long, and I'm gonna get highlights as well, or I might just go back to much more shorter, more I forget the term, but it's just like much more shorter hair. So I honestly haven't decided. I might decide like that day if I'm gonna cut it all off, or I'm just gonna thin it out just so it's a little bit easier and less messy and crazy.
Right. I feel that. See, at this point, I'm like, I was gonna keep a nice, fade going on all the time. 2 to 3 fade, whatever, just look real nice. And then quarantine hit, and I was like, maybe not. I was like, maybe I'll just out. So next thing you know, I look like David. So
the beard, the hair.
Yeah. So,
well,
but
cool,
hey,
dude. I'm glad you hopped on. Hopefully it helped.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, I took I pulled up my notes, and I've got lengthy amount of notes. So
I'm glad, man. I'm happy.
Yeah. So essentially, like, what I've been working on is just more. It's like not really a personal brand per se. It's not just Millet being a brand. I have a DJ business and whatnot, so I'm trying to get some helpful tools here and there, essentially. So, but I'm rolling out a website hopefully this week. So,
I
love it. Awesome. Hey, send it over. I'll give you advice or whatever. Any questions that you have,
dude, give it hell, honestly. So
yeah. My email is David at. I guess you have it from the confirmation.
Is that your personal one?
Yeah, David at numallc.com.
Okay.
That's personal work. It's the only one I use.
Okay.
But yeah, shoot the URL over, and I'll do I've been doing screen recording videos for website. I'll do a quick screen recording for you.
Okay. Yeah, that would be really helpful. So this is
cool.
So,
are you on Twitter? What?
No, dude.
So I'm actually not on Twitter. It's funny. We were talking about Twitter a little bit, and I was like, I hate that platform. Like, I don't even have it. Like, I do not.
I respect that. What's your go-to platform? I want to follow you.
So I am probably more of an Instagram / Snapchatter / occasionally Facebook. Occasionally.
Millet.
Yeah, I have a weird handle. It's
Noah's Ark.
That's me. So I've had it literally since I was like, when did Instagram become a thing?
2010.
There, yeah. Then when still had blue buttons and all that jazz.
I'm currently reading the Inside Deep Story on Instagram. It's a 300-page book. David, this is what I was saying. The Sarah Fryer's book. It's phenomenal, man. It's like lots to learn, and it's kind of crazy, the story. Like, literally, Jack Dorsey, all these big social media giant CEOs, they were all working together in the same coffee shops. It's wild. So if you like reading No Filter by Sarah Fryer Noah, it's just a really good story on social media and OG history with San Francisco and just how all this money kind of conglomerated in there, and it's very interesting.
Like the Silicon Valley and stuff like that, kind of.
Yep.
Okay. Sweet. But I won't keep you guys any longer if you guys got things to do. But I just want to.
I gotta go walk. I gotta go walk an anxious dog.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys soon.
Yes, sir.
See ya, Noah. Thanks for coming, man.
Of course.
Peace. For those of you who still stuck around till the end of the recording, 1, thank you for watching it all the way. 2, feel free to hit us up if you have any other questions. And I hope you enjoyed that little backstage conversation between an old friend and I. But again, thank you for coming. If you made it in live, if you made it here, thanks for sticking around. Hopefully we helped, and let us know if you have any questions. Peace, guys.